A couple things real quick as it relates to informXL and BRIX. We've been working with Blaine and Allison and his team for over a year now. We're excited about the progress we've made and the excitement in the industry around informXL in general, but specifically with BRIX, and just the success that we've had together has been very, very exciting, and we continue to add new builders on the BRIX platform, and they all see the unique and just capabilities overall of informXL and bringing out some of the capabilities, if you will, of BRIX. So we're excited to have Allison and Blaine here today. Excited to get started. Blaine, is there anything else that you'd like to cover while we're still having people sign on?
I don't think so. This is our third webinar of the series. We got a total of 4, and so my guess is a handful of folks that are dialing in have kind of sat through this. We'll do a quick intro to us for those who may be new, but we can get started whenever.
And the next webinar is scheduled for March 4th, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get started and do the introductions. And of course, our marketing teams will be following up with more information on the March 4th webinar. But let's go ahead and get started today. Blaine?
All right, thanks. Thanks, Stephen. All right, so I'm Blaine Parrish. I'm the president at informXL, and on the call today as well from our team on the informXL side is Allison Birdie. Allison is our kind of trainer, project manager extraordinaire, and she's just going to step you through the BRIX product. Allison, you want to go ahead and go on to the next slide there? This is our, I think our third webinar in the series. So I know that many of the folks that have attended the other webinars have seen these slides. I'll whip through them real quickly here. But for those of you who are new, real quick overview of informXL. So kind of a little bit of who we are and what we do. We are just an we build out-of-the-box business intelligence tools for home builders, right? So we try to keep it real simple, and our flagship and kind of what we're known for is an Excel-based tool that would connect to your BRIX system in real time. And everything we're going to show you today, that Allison's going to show you today, works from just right out of the box. There's nothing to configure, there's nothing to set up, there's no queries to write. Everything is just works right out of the gate. All right, Allison, go ahead and go to the next slide. Just a quick slide of some builders we work with. There's a lot of some of the larger public builders are on here, but we also work with a lot of small private builders. And so just wanted to pop that up real quickly and say, hey, look, we've been around for a long time. We work with a lot of builders. And we're super excited to get into the BRIX product. A lot of the builders we've worked with, that we currently work with, and that are even on this list, are Hyphen Build Pro, Supply Pro builders, and we have built out some tools for those products. But this is our foray into informXL for BRIX, or into the BRIX product. Allison. Thanks. Wanted to thank and give a shout out to our early adopters. So we are not developing informXL for BRIX in a vacuum, so to speak. Allison and I, neither one of us are BRIX experts. And so we are relying on the BRIX experts to help guide us through this development effort. And of course, the BRIX experts are going to come from Hyphen's team and the BRIX team. They've been extremely helpful in providing us with technical guidance and helping us with queries and to better understand the BRIX system. And as well, some of the builders that signed up early on, and that's Chesmar Homes, Pride Homes, and New Homes you can see here on the screen. And these builders have been instrumental in helping us to better understand what it is that you as BRIX customers are looking for in your reports. It's been interesting because we would come out with an analyzer or come out with a report, and we think we've nailed it, and we get immediate feedback from the builders on this list, and realize that, wow, we've got some changes to make this more usable. So anyway, thanks to them for helping us kind of guide the product as we've developed it over the last number of months. Allison. All right, so this is just a list of the different webinars that we have had over the last couple of months. We are on webinar 3 of 4, that's highlighted there. So we're going to cover today the job details and accounts payable analyzers. The next webinar is, and the final webinar is on March 4th. Okay, and keep an eye out for the invite and for the emails from Hyphen, because that will come from the Hyphen team. And then right at that time, we're going to start launching informXL. We're going to make it available to the BRIX builders that are looking for it. So mark your calendars. The final review of the last two analyzers will be March 4th, and we will start deploying at that time. Okay. The last slide that we have today, or as soon as Allison wraps up, I'm going to pop open a slide that has the contact information for you to reach out to your Hyphen reps. But that will happen at the end of the presentation today. All right, Allison, we'll let you do your thing.
All right, and I'm actually just I'm gonna turn off my camera just to keep some bandwidth, not be too large. Oops. And I'm gonna jump over into my SharePoint site, which is where I'm keeping all of the informXL analyzers. Of course, if you don't have SharePoint, you can keep these in a shared file directory. Now, if you attended our last webinar, one of the questions that came up was, what do we consider the most underrated analyzer? And without hesitation, I said job details, which is the first analyzer that we're going to go over today. And why job details, right? And so I'm just going to go ahead and open it up. And it's honestly because it's just an awesome analyzer, because it's going to provide you with an array of information specific to a job. But when you run it in mass, it allows you to take all that information and compare it across jobs and projects and areas and regions, right? So it's not like as sexy as like purchase orders and job costs that we went over in the last webinar, but it's kind of like the Southwest Airlines of analyzers. It's not fancy, but it's going to get you where you need to go and give you just some great information when you're looking at it. So when you look at this analyzer, obviously the first thing you guys look at, we're going to look at the parameter values, which are always going to be in the informXL ribbon. And you have clients, companies, divisions, regions, areas, and projects. And these are all multi-select or up to 5 wildcards. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to pick an area, and then I'm going to pull all of the projects in for this specific area. You also can include closed jobs. So I'm going to leave this check and I'll pull in my closed jobs as well. And then with all the informXL analyzers to the far right, there's a field chooser, which allows you to pull in additional information. So maybe I want to pull in the city for the company, and then I'll just drop down to my job information, and I'll pull in, say, my living area and maybe my loan number. Just a couple of other fields that I'm going to want to pull into this particular analyzer. So I'm going to go ahead and select Get Data. And when I do that, you can see the little globe is spinning in the lower left-hand corner. And as Blaine mentioned, what it's doing is it's going out and it's pulling real-time data directly from your BRIX database, and it's going to bring it in here. I think my system's a little bit pokey this morning because of the being online. What's nice about this analyzer is there's by default, over 80 job-related fields that we're pulling in. I think it actually has 86 fields currently that we're bringing into this particular analyzer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this at a very, very high level. So we're not going to review all 86 of those fields. And I know you're saying, oh, thank goodness, I don't want to do that. But there are a few key things that I want to be able to touch on. Like, for example, here's your project information. You can see that I brought in almost 3,600 records. Up here at the top of informXL is you can see these plus signs. And so this is where we have additional group data. We don't expose all of the fields, but if I open this up, you can see here's all my client, company, division, region, area information, right? So you can definitely expose some of those. It's going to follow up with just some of my job details, some of the things that are very specific to that job. If I ungroup here, you can see that includes like your address. And I know that a lot of builders will use that address, the lot address, to reference that job as opposed to the job number or the lot number. So this might be something that you want to expose, right? The beautiful thing about informXL is that you can really customize this to look at the data that you want to be able to look at. I can just simply ungroup it, and now this field is always going to be visible to me. So you group up the fields that you don't need to see and ungroup the fields that you do want to see. Get rid of the noise and just really focus on what you want to look at. And you set it up one time, file save as, set it and forget it. So we're bringing job information in, and I'm going to just scroll over to the right. Of course, some plan information, and we have plan descriptions and the swing over in here. So again, lots of data. Sales and purchase dates. These are going to be things that you're going to want to look at. So we're bringing in the relevant data regardless of where it is sitting inside the system. Following that is some construction information, and again, a lot more dates that are sitting underneath here. So a lot of that key information for construction. And then as Blaine mentioned, we really are listening to our early adopters, and one of the things that they wanted to see was some key cycle time metrics based off of the key dates in the system. So some of those are your sales and purchase dates, and some of them are over here with these key job dates as well. So we've done some metrics: sales to start, start to completion, sales to close, and complete to close. What's nice about having this in here, again, as I mentioned, you can take this data, you can take these averages, this is on a job by job basis, look at those averages across jobs, across plans, across builders, your superintendents, right? You have so many different ways to look at it. If I open up these key dates, you're going to see we're bringing in a lot of those important dates based off that particular job. Keep scrolling over. Warranty information, your key team members, of course, so sales, decorators, service rep, superintendent, and at the end is your lender information. So your lender, your mortgage company, and then to the far right is where those fields are that you chose from the field chooser. So whenever you select information from this field chooser, it's always going to populate over here on the far right. So quite a bit of information sitting inside here. And again, great information to have. So one of the things with informXL, we bring all of your data in this main worksheet, but then you can really summarize it using standard Microsoft Excel pivot tables. And we have predefined pivot tables in our analyzers. And in this one, we just have one, and that is the job status summary. So basically looking at it by project, and then up here across the top is your job status, and then the count of the number of jobs. So I can see that I have still 10 jobs left that are currently sitting at a dirt lot. I have 53 that have been closed. I have 4 spec homes, 4 that are currently sold, and 2 that are under a contingent sale. So a great way to be able to see what my backlog looks like, what I've closed. But let's take it a little bit of a step further, right? So things that you can do with this type of information. Maybe I want to see my plan frequency, right? What plans am I selling in what projects? So with every informXL analyzer, there's a pivot, create your own, a sandbox that you can come in and play with. I'm actually just going to tweak this one a little bit, and I'll bring down my field list. Right, so I'm just going to change it up. So I'm actually going to take my job status. I'm going to slide it from my columns into my projects. And I don't want to look at any dirt lots. So I'm just going to look at everything that is sold, contingent, or closed. Okay, I'm just take my records down a little bit, and I want to look at my plan frequency. So I'm going to come down here. I know my plan information's in here. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to drop it under my project name. So now what I'm looking at is the count of my jobs and my most popular plans. Well, I'm going to go in and I'm going to sort it largest to smallest at my subtotal. I'm also going to sort it largest to smallest within my data set. Okay, and it looks like I have a plan here that doesn't have a name. I'm actually just going to get rid of that. There you go. So now I can see at the village of Creekside Park, the Tremar is the plan that I'm selling the most of, right? Followed by the Bellagio. What if I sell the same plan in multiple projects, multiple communities, right? What is my actual best-selling plan and how many times do I sell it in each community? That's as simple as taking my pivot table and flipping it, right? Now I can see my bungalow. That's the plan that I sell the most of. And this is the project where I sell it the most, right? So I just by one quick little flip, I was able to change the data in the way that I'm looking at it. And we can actually take this a step further. So I'm going to grab my elevation. I'm going to drop that into my columns. I'm actually going to take this and I'm just going to change my column width because I need to. Like to keep it nice and simple. So now I can see that the elevation A is actually the elevation that I am selling the most of for my bungalow plan, right? So you can start doing this sort of analysis. You know, you could add a conditional formatting onto this chart to highlight the highest number in the row. So you can very visually see which elevation is the most popular. So just different ways that you can take this information, these 86 different columns, more if you include your field chooser, and be able to do some sort of analysis. Really, with this analyzer, you have so many possibilities. Okay, so I was super excited to show you that one. I think it's totally underrated, but I am going to move into, I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to move into accounts payable. And I will tell you, I am so excited to be able to show you this analyzer. And I typically do not get excited about accounting. So I'm not an accounting person. I don't get super excited about it. No offense to all the bean counters out there, but I am truly, truly excited about this analyzer. So this is going to show you everything that's gone through your AP within the parameters that you've set. So if we look up at the parameter values, you can see we have our usual suspects: clients, companies, divisions, regions, and areas and projects. They're all multi-select or up to 5 wildcards. I'm actually going to do some wildcards in here. Now your multi-select, you could just hold down your control key and pick specific projects. But with the wildcards, let's say that I wanted to pull in like all of my projects that start with a 003, and maybe all of my projects that start with a 005, doesn't matter what comes after, and maybe a 007. So I'll come into my project, type in 003, %. % is your wild card, means show me everything that starts with a 003, and I don't care what comes after it. So I'll do a comma, I'll do the same thing with 005 and the same thing with 007. So again, this is how you're going to be able to put in your wildcards. Now you could run it for just a specific job, right? Or jobs, again, multi-select or wildcards. Vendor, you can run this for a specific vendor. So let's say that you needed to find everything that you've paid a specific vendor within a date range. Well, come in here, put your date range in, pick your vendor, and you're going to be able to pull all of that information. So think about how easy that would be to be able to get that data out. Same thing with your account groups, right? If you just wanted to see what your sales and marketing was, or you just wanted to look at your G&A, go ahead and do a multi-select of your account groups or up to 5 wildcards, and you can run the analyzer that way as well. Now up here is your date range, and this is the accounting date. And so based off our early adopter group, which is so helpful, we've defaulted this to 1 month. So your to date is always going to be today, and then your from date is going to be exactly 1 month prior. I'm actually going to change this. My data is a little bit older, so I am just going to go to January 1st, 2020, so I make sure I bring all my data in. But when you open it, it'll just default to a single month. This next one is invoice number contains. Now, imagine that you're working and somebody calls you and they ask you about an invoice. I may be drinking my coffee, I may be doing 20 other things, right? So I don't hear the whole invoice and I just put a number in. When you think about informXL, you're thinking about informXL as a BI tool, right? We're going to do all this great reporting, but you think about it too as a tool, right? A very quick way to be able to pull up information. Maybe I don't have BRIX on right now. Maybe I haven't logged in yet and somebody's calling me and I'm just getting going. I can quickly throw in part of that invoice number. And now if I come to my analyzer, I can see there's 139 records with this invoice with a 0036 invoice number. If I go ahead and look at this filter list, you can see these all have a 0036. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom, here I can see where my 0036 is at the end. And here it's in the middle, somewhere in the middle of that invoice number. Invoice number contains, we're just looking for these digits. So if you need to quickly look something up, you saw how fast that went out and ran and grabbed everything that mirrors this invoice number. This is just a great tool if you are working in AP and you want to be able to look something up really quickly. Great way to go about it. Now, you can also choose to bring voided records in. So if you have any voided transactions, you can check this box and it's going to bring it in. Now, for what I'm really excited about is this run by. And this absolutely came from our user group, our early adopter group. So you can run it for all, and we're going to do that in a minute. You can run it for unpaid only. So if you are working in AP and you only want to be able to see the items that haven't been paid yet, right? So like, what's my workload right now? What is sitting inside there that I need to go in and, batch up, or if I've already batched them, but I need to go and pay. So I've just run it for unpaid only. I have 932 records that are not paid yet. Over here, we have some conditional formatting in there. So if to let you know what each item is. So yellow means it's unpaid and posted, right? So right here, I'm just able to see everything that is not paid, but it gets so much better. I'm so excited. This was such a big deal for our early adopter group. You can run it for unposted only. And one of the things that came up with your AP batches in BRIX is sometimes you have an error in your batch and you can't post that batch until either that item is removed or the error has been fixed. So the request we got was A, I want to be able to run this by unposted only, and B, I want to be able to see my error. I want to know what's causing the problems that I'm having. So I'm going to hover over this description field. And what we ended up doing is if there is an error in your unposted batch, we're actually populating the description with your errors. So the description field is pulling in over here, and I know that the errors actually say error in them. So I'm just going to start typing into my text filter my errors. and I'm going to say okay. Now, this isn't great to read. You can see there's a lot of data in here. I do not want to expand this field. It's going to get pretty big. So we put a wrap text. And when I check that wrap text, it's actually going to expose every error that you have on that particular item. So just this one up on top, here's 1, 2, it has 3 errors. And you can see that BRIX is awesome because it's very specific about the errors that you have. So this is going to allow your team the ability to either go in and fix that error so that you can move forward and post your batch, or you can remove this from your batch and then go ahead and get that batch posted and get everything else sitting inside there paid. So this was something directly out of our early adopters group, and just so excited to be able to show that to you. So one thing, I'm going to unwrap my text. Very important when you have a wrap text that when you're going to get data again, you do not leave this checked, because it's going to try to wrap as it's populating, and it's really going to slow it down. Oops, I didn't mean to get data again yet. That's okay, it's running. I meant to do is clear my filters right here. So it's going to clear all my filters on the top, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to change this to all, and I'm going to go ahead and get data, and I'm going to bring in all of my paid, my unpaid, and my unposted. Again, as a reminder, why this is going out and running is that you do have your field chooser in here. So you do have the opportunity to bring in additional fields as well, if it's not something that you're seeing in the analyzer. So it's going out, there we go. So it brought in just over 4,100 records. Okay, so we're gonna go through some of the main details that we're pulling in. So first off, obviously your vendor information, your project information. Underneath this plus sign is going to be your client, company, division, region, area, and projects, right? For your account data, you're going to be able to run this. Oops, let me control home. There we go. We're bringing in obviously more than just this account group and account name, right? And the account group is going to mirror up to these account groups in your parameters, but you're also doing at the account, the AP account, and then also at your cash account. So a lot of information depending on how you want to be able to look at it. Over here in the transaction information, of course, your invoice number, your PO number. We did touch on this paid, right? So again, that conditional formatting is helpful because you probably don't know what the 1, 2, and 3 means, but you can certainly come in and know what your green, yellow, and red means. Okay, I do want to open this up because again, this is something that came from our early adopters. We're also bringing in the approving superintendent and the superintendent approval date. So for any of those PO items that have been marked as approved and have interfaced over from BuildPro, you're going to be able to see who approved it and when it was approved, which is awesome. You can see why I'm so excited. I can tell, even though I can't hear you guys, probably excited too. Your invoice date, so invoice, accounting, post, and due. And then over here, what we have is an aging. And we actually added this, and we added it as a formula, right? informXL is just Excel. So especially when we start getting into a lot of the accounting and finance related analyzers, I know that you guys like to do your own formulas, and you can absolutely insert columns and insert your own formulas into informXL. And one of the reasons that I think this is so nice to do as a formula instead of hard coding it into the report is because we're doing this off of invoice date, but maybe your business, it needs to be accounting date or due date or post date, right? So it makes it very simple for you to come in and just change out the field that we're referencing. So you can really make it your own. Same thing with your aging range. It's just a big formula. So if your range is different than 0 to 30, 31 to 60, and 61 to 90s and 90s plus, change out the formula, right? Make it work for you, how you do business. So we do have this in there. We have conditional formatting on the fields as well. So you'll be able to see that. All right. Amounts, invoice amounts. So we are bringing in, all of those invoice fields, the things that you would see when you're looking at your vendor analysis from within BRIX. So you'll be able to have all of those. Your job information, again, address if you wanted to ungroup that. Your cost code information, and we do have the fields and the descriptions, and then over here is your check information that pertains to each one of these items. So you'll be able to see the check date, check number, check date, and check amount. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ungroup this, and I'm going to scroll on over to the left because I do want you to be able to see this additional details. So we are bringing in some of that audit trail information, like what was the batch, who created the batch, what was the check batch, right? So you're going to have all of that additional data sitting underneath, right? So Jessica created the batch, but Susie created the check batch. Easy for me to say. All right, I'm going to scroll back on over. So what do you do with it? Well, again, going to go ahead and put it into some pivot tables. So the first predefined pivot table that we have is the aging summary. And again, I'm going to refresh this to bring in my most up-to-date information. I only want to look at unpaid items. I know that one is paid. I'm going to uncheck that. And so now I'm looking at my my unposted batches as well as my posted batches, and I can see just how many days these unpaid items are out. And again, this is using that aging range right here. So awesome, because your formulas are available to use within your pivot tables. The next one is a vendor analysis. I'm going to refresh it. That's your best practice. And in this case, I probably only want to look at paid items. And this is going to look very similar to you. So very much like your vendor analysis reports that you're going to be able to pull directly out of BRIX. And this is looking at it on an invoice by invoice basis, looking at that check information, cost code information. The vendor summary is going to take that and it's going to summarize it all up. And I probably, again, if I just want to look at paid, you're going to be able to see summing it up by vendor. So one of the great things about pivot tables is you don't have to, you can take all of these 4,100 rows and then be able to summarize them. Now this next one is a check summary, and I'm going to refresh my data. It is my best practice. I'm going to just look at my paid, and this is looking at it by vendor, by check number and check date. So my GE appliances down here, you can see that they have 2 checks and then my check amount. Now I do want to point out one thing with check amount. If I drop back over to my main worksheet, you can see in this example right here, there are multiple lines with the same check, right? So when you are working in pivot tables, something like this, you need to take into consideration. So this check amount is actually doing a average. So it's going to average out all of the records that have that same check so that you're not actually summing up all 4, but we're actually looking at what that true check amount is. Now, so this is fun. We can look at it this way, but let's take it just another step beyond. So I'm going to open up my field list and we'll just tweak it a little bit. So instead of looking at it this way, maybe I want to look at it with my check date across the top, right? So now by just moving my check number, I've slid my check date over, and now I'm able to look at my payments for each one of these vendors by date. And let's say you ran this for a lot of, you had maybe 6 months worth of data in there. I'm going to come in and I'm going to group it. And so I can say, group it by months and years. And just going to say yes. And so now it's taken this data and it's grouped it up by months and years. What if you do a check run every week? And so instead of grouping it by months and years, I want to look at it by each week. I can change my grouping to days. I can tick my number of days up to 7, right? If you do check runs every 2 weeks, maybe change your number of days up to 14, right? I'm going to say okay. And now let me go ahead and I'm just going to do a quick wrap text, get it all nice and set. Now, based off of each date range in there, I'm able to see what I have paid out for each one of those ranges. Okay, so just so many nice and simple ways that you are able to look at your data. So some of the fun ways, but there's so much that you can do with this. So I'm just going to come back to my accounts payable, and I think that's all I have to show you. I hope you're as excited as I am. And I think we're going to probably open it up for questions at this point. Oh, but before I go, I do want to mention that there is a handout on the webinar. So make sure that you go and find that handout and print it up on BRIX one sheet vinyl PDF. You should be able to see that. Okay. So do we have any questions for me?
Yeah, Allison, could you go ahead and put up the final slide? We have a question asking what email or phone number do we call to get this going for their company? So
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
can reach out to us by phone or email. Here's our sales information for Hyphen. So this will be the best way to get in contact with us. Also, some other questions coming in. So for the accounts payable analyzer, what if a field that I'm looking for is not included in the analyzer?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just pop that back up. So you do have the field chooser, right? So you have that field chooser and you have that capability to grab information for some of these other fields. And we are looking at exposing additional tables as well. So if there's something that you're not seeing, let us know, but you do have that capability to be able to pull in some additional information without any problems. Good question.
Another question for accounts payable, why is the default date range set to 1 month? What if I want my default date range set to 2 months?
Yeah, so the 1 month default is something that the early adopter group decided that they thought that 1 month was a good range. But what's so nice about informXL is actually inside this configuration and support, we have an options button. And inside that option button is an autofill date parameters on open. So let's say that you always want to run your analyzer for the current year. You could uncheck this box, do a file save as, and then set your date range to be the current year, 1/1/2021 to 12/31/2021. And every time you open up that customized analyzer, that file saved as analyzer, your date range is going to stick with whatever you put in it. So you can always make those adjustments. Right? We try to make this as friendly as we can for you because we don't want you to have to change the dates every time you log in either. Those are clicks that you just don't need.
Awesome. And then shifting over to the job detail, does job details include jobs that were sold and then also canceled?
Yeah, so another really good question, and I'm just going to pop back over here and I'll open up job details real quick. So what we did with job details is we brought in just your active jobs. So I understand that, you can have jobs that have sold, canceled, sold, canceled, sold, canceled. And if you want to bring in those cancellations, you can do that with the sales summary analyzer, which I know you guys saw in the very first webinar. So the sales summary allows you to pull in the canceled, but for the job details, we really want you to be able to do an analysis of what your current jobs are without having to filter out maybe cancellations that happened previously. So really this is more of your working jobs, but if you wanted that level of information, you could run the sales summary and pull those cancellations in.
Awesome. Also, another one, I noticed some of the cycle time metrics are blank. Why would that be?
Great question. So I'll let this run and I'm going to come back over here and you can see some of them. So we actually have a description in here. And so we're telling you the logic that we're using, but one of the requests was to not populate negative amounts, right? So sales to start. Let's say that you had a spec home and that spec home, did I get data? Oh, I did. And that spec home sold after it started. Well, you don't want to see a negative number in here because it's really not reflective of the cycle time for that particular item. So we're only bringing in the metrics when it's a positive number, because otherwise we're going to assume it was probably a spec or a model home. And so we don't want to skew any of your other data and have to be able to pull those out one job at a time. Good question. Thank you. Are there any?
Another one. Yeah. Can I pick and choose which analyzers I want to purchase?
It is a package deal. So I don't know if Blaine wants to address this, but when you purchase informXL, you get all of the analyzers that are included with it, and that is for unlimited users as well. So
That is correct. Yeah, it is sold as a suite. It's kind of like buying Microsoft Office. You know, you get PowerPoint, you get Word, even if you don't plan to use it. But all the analyzers are included with the package. I will say that with our BRIX, informXL for BRIX package, we've really zeroed in on the analyzers that are going to be highly used across the organization, right? So Allison, if you go back to the list of the different analyzers, you can see here we've got, really we've hit the high points, and I bet money that everybody in the organization, in any given home building organization, there's always going to be somebody who wants one of these analyzers, right? Sales analyzer has all your sales data, and purchase orders, of course, all POs, and general ledger and accounts payable, right? We've hit all the main points, and so yes, it does come in a package. We're not selling them individually, but I can pretty much guarantee you'll use that whole package.
Awesome. Another one. My team is not very adept at using Excel. Do you provide training?
we do offer training, and that's primarily done by myself. So yes, we do offer training, departmental training on informXL, which will include, obviously a lot of Excel information, how to work with pivot tables, etc. So yes, we do offer training.
And one nice thing about the trainings that we do, it's department focused. And so you would have, say, for example, a 3 or 4 hour session with your accounting team. And a part of that process and a part of that training that Allison works with you on is making sure that you walk away with reports and pivot tables that are applicable to you. Every time that we do a training, there's always somebody who wants something a little bit different, right? You might have a training with 5 people in a department. These 2 people want to see it that way. These other 3 people want to see it a different way. And Allison will work with you on making sure that you ultimately get the views that you're needing. So it's a comprehensive training. You don't have to be an expert in Excel to use this tool, nor do you even have to be an expert at BRIX to use this tool, which kind of highlighting, I think one of my favorite things about informXL is that this is a tool that will begin to engage your entire organization into your BRIX data, right? So you probably have a lot of managers, a lot of the builders we work with, there's a lot of executives or managers that don't necessarily know how to log into BRIX or navigate through BRIX, but with informXL, they can now start to engage with all the data within the BRIX system because it's such an easy tool to use. But again, if you're not familiar with all the things that Allison just showed you within Excel, we will provide the training and make sure that each of the analyzers becomes usable to you and your management team.
And they're also, and I will mention that they're also shareable, right? So if you have, somebody in your organization who's good at Excel, or let's say during your training, we have created some pivot tables, maybe added some formulas to make it more useful for you, that analyzer that can then be shared amongst your team, right? So you can have one person set it up and then everyone else can go ahead and use it, and you're looking at that same data. So that's really nice as well. And we actually, in informXL, you don't have to be an expert at all. All you have to be able to do is select get data and refresh your pivot table. So even if you have users that only know how to maybe input something into an Excel cell, they can still use this and get all of the value out of it. In our early adopter group, one of the teams called this the easy button. He said we needed to change it from get data to the easy button because it just makes life so much easier. That transparency.
Awesome. Did anybody else have any questions they wanted to provide in the question section of the webinar that we could answer while everybody's still on? All right, nothing else is trickling in, guys. So I think that might be it. Could you put the contact us slide up just for a couple more minutes? Thanks, Allison.
Yeah.
Allison, Blaine, great job. Really appreciate your time today. Please reach out to us if any questions. There's the sales alias and phone number for Hyphen Solutions, or you can reach out to Blaine or Stephen Candy directly. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.